In late spring in the northern hemisphere, the most unnoticed, yet mysterious night of the year creeps in. At midnight on April 30, flames beat like a pulse in certain valleys in Central Europe. Some call it the celebration of spring, but the night, in older languages, has a darker name: Walpurgis Night. It has been said that this was the Halloween of the medieval witches and the night of Satan's holy feast. Is the root of this holiday a celebration of light, or is it a submission to darkness? The Brocken in the Harz Mountains, at an altitude of 141 meters, has been considered a gateway to the other world since ancient times. An old proverb has been passed down in the region. On the top of Brocken's hill, on the last night of April, the devil himself lights a bonfire to welcome his handmaiden. This is not mere legend. In the 1780s, a German priest wrote in private note, "On the last dark night of April, I looked above the mountain tops and saw flames rising and figures mingling, not unlike the festivals of the earth." This, then, is a true record of the period. Walpurgis Night takes its name from an 8th century English nun, Saint Walpurga, her memorial day, which falls on May Honest. But why is this figure, revered as the Virgin of Exorcism, associated with a witch orgy? It's irony woven into the fabric of history. She was originally honored as a missionary for Christianity to exorcise paganism, but her memorial day has been taken up by pagans, by witch believers. Over the course of time, the spring festival on the night before May, one evolved into a cultural tug-of-war between pagans and Christians. And in this tug-of-war lies the shadow of Europe's religious conflicts and the burial of untold numbers of souls engulfed at the stake. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, more than 30 women were executed for witchcraft in the Holy Roman Empire alone. Some of these women were herbalists, some were widows, some just prayed. And the night of the Walpurgis is their collective guilt. In one night, they go from being mothers, neighbors, healers, to witches with demonic powers. Today, the festival is still celebrated in Germany, the Czech Republic, Sweden, and elsewhere as Bonfire Day. Some thought it was just a spring night parade, but there was also a whisper circulating among the residents of Lower Broken Hill. "You can watch the fireworks, but don't look at the top of the hill." A night that carries so much meaning. The struggle between paganism and Christianity, the confrontation between women and power, the tussle between magic and reason. But the real question is, Walpurgis Night, is it a fictional symbol or a real black ritual that actually exists in reality? In the next chapters, we go into the heart of the real ceremony. Decipher the roots of the legend of the flight of the witch. Visit archaeological sites in the Broken Hills. Track down vanished pagan texts and uncover clues to the underground rituals. Sometimes, real witches don't need to fly on broomsticks. They hide in the cracks of faith and live on the borders of human fear. In B.C. Europe, rituals were often performed around a huge oak tree, with men wearing antler masks, lighting piles of spices mixed with herbs and ashes with torches. In the days before Christianity entered the European continent, the night of April 30th was a pagan festival dedicated to the power of spring, life, and fertility. The Celts called it Beltane, from Bel, the ancient sun god, and Ten, meaning fire, which means fire. It is a ceremony of oneness with nature, where bonfires are lit to ward off the cold and evil spirits, and young men and women jump over the flames to symbolize harvest and prosperity. The fire is both a symbol of purification and a medium of invocation. The priests lit 2 huge fires to allow the animals to cross the flaming gates in order to bless the new season with health. How similar is this to the pattern of the Walpurgis Night rally? This is a ceramic goddess statue unearthed in the Broken Hill area, with raised hands, exaggerated breasts, and a sunwheel motif inlaid on the head. Archaeological evidence shows that a symbol known as the Mother Goddess was widely worshipped in the Harz Mountains and on many ridges in Scandinavia. They were not evil witches, but with the decline of the Roman Empire and the spread of Christianity, these deities became illegitimate. The Mother Goddess became the witch, and the forest priest became the psychic. In ancient Roman ecclesiastical documents, the blotted-out pagan symbols were replaced with crosses. The Latin Diaboli Mulieribus appeared. The church did not destroy the ritual, but changed its meaning. From then on, the Night of the Goddess on April 30th became the Night of the Witch. Sacredness is defined as evil. The name Night of the Walpurgis first appeared widely in literature in the 11th century confessionals of monasteries. It is written, "Many women eloped into the forest at night at the end of April, danced around the fire, sang naked, and proclaimed their unity with the Lord of the forest. They had been captured by the devil. At the site of the Temple of Nos, there is a brass symbol of the Lord of the Forest, a human-faced goat-horned god, placed on a stone pedestal at the site of the Temple of Nos. The Lord of the Forest may refer to the pagan god Pan, or to the more ancient fertility god Cernunnos. His image was later borrowed by Christianity and evolved into the familiar Satan, ram's horns, animal hooves, temptation, ecstasy, from god to devil, from procreator to seducer. In German folklore, it is believed that witches take to the skies on this night, traveling on broomsticks or animal backs to the Brocken mountains to dance with the devil. But could this be a misinterpretation of the ancient springtime priests' walk through the woods? Is it a demonization of nature worship? Is it the church's last word, conquest of paganism? This is a medieval manuscript depiction of a witch's flight, with the figure riding a broomstick through the clouds with a burning bonfire underneath. Perhaps flight is not so much physical as it is spiritual. It is a deep, collective trance, a shift in consciousness that psychics achieve in vanilla, fire, and rhythm. And all of this, in the archetype of Walpurgis Night, has been around for a long time. The truly disturbing question, then, is this. If this night was supposed to be just a festival of dancing in harmony with nature, who quietly colored it black in the dead of night of history? In folklore, Brocken Peak is the end of the witch's flight, the sacred mountain where they dance with the devil. Instead, the mountain has been radically altered once in modern history, from a place of mystery to a military no-go zone. In 1935, the National Socialist regime in Germany secretly took over the highland area of Brocken Peak. The official reason was high-frequency radio listening station. However, some details in the file reveal that it was not just a listening post. Hidden in the SS archives is a research memorandum submitted by the Ahnenerbe, Nazi occult research unit, which states Brocken's Mountain, a sacred site in the Northlands since pagan times. The magnetic anomalies in the area are well above average, making it suitable as an experimental field for consciousness expansion. Annenberg, the Nazi-affiliated Institute of Archaeology and Ancestral Heritage, not only searched for antiquities, but also conducted systematic research into witchcraft, astrology, and pagan ritual. The organization is rumored to have attempted to revive the core rituals of Norse witchcraft, including the night fire dance circle, spirit projection, and even to reconstruct a witch's language. In an exclusive interview, historian Tobias Keller said, "We found records directly related to the Walpurgis Night in materials captured after the war. SS has hosted a series of natural rhythms experiments atop Brocken Hill, which included late-night hypnosis, group trance rituals, and the use of herbal fumes to induce hallucinations. They were not folk shamans, but tools of the regime." The Night of Walpurgis went from being a mystical festival to an experimental theater of consciousness control in that moment. But that's not the end of Brocken. At the end of the Second World War, Brocken Hill was transferred to East German territory. The Soviets took over and turned the former Nazi facility into a base for listening to Western broadcasts. It went from being the holy mountain of witches to being the ear of the GDR. But here's the weird thing. In the declassified documents, a basement at the top of the mountain was never registered. No one knows where it leads, nor does anyone admit that it ever existed. From an altar of religious heresy, it was transformed into an instrument of political power. The Night of Walpurgis, it seems, signals a new power play every time it resurfaces, whether it's a witch. But we must ask, why does this night always get heavily weighted? Are the magnetic anomalies, the psychological phenomena, the historical legends of Brocken Hill merely coincidental? In many populations, Walpurgis Night has become a neutral folk festival. Bonfires, parades, fireworks, concerts. But in the Harz Mountains, there are always places that are deliberately avoided from coverage and from the official festival schedule every April 30 at midnight. They are hidden deep in the trails and are called dark zones. According to the locals, every year on this day, there are always people who come not for the festival, but for the ceremony. In 2019, a photojournalist, Sylvia Heller, anonymously published a body of work entitled Walpurgis Invisible Flames. The photo shows a blindfolded woman holding a deer bone, standing in the center of a stone circle as moonlight passes between the clouds and shines on the fire in front of her. In her interview, Sylvia mentioned, "They didn't take pictures, they didn't talk. Just one by one, they got into the zone, as if they knew how to summon some kind of power. And all of this, inside a Berlin apartment. A middle-aged woman in a dark shawl has tattoos on her wrists that resemble symbols. Shown, member of the Modern Witch Society, Karen S. She said in an exclusive interview, "We call this day the gateway to the spirit world. Between midnight on April 30 and early morning on May 1, the line becomes thinnest. The dead and the living, the mind and reality. Karen is a modern Wiccan practitioner who calls herself a spiritual guide. The rituals of Walpurgis Night, she says, do not mimic history, but follow a suppressed memory. Modern witch communities are still active in many parts of Europe. The Ring of Shadows in Sweden, the Brocken 13 in Germany, the Daughters of the Silver Forest in the Czech Republic, and so on. A stone inscribed with strange symbols is covered with moss in the forest outside Prague. We found a 16th century Bohemian prayer manuscript, No. ML 237, which refers to a description of a ritual called the Night Call, which includes, on the night before the new fire is born, the barefooted man whirls around the northern rock for 3 weeks, muttering Velis, Kali, Elohim, upward for dream instructions. Strikingly, the ritual forms are remarkably similar to what we see in modern underground rituals. Even the language retains ancient forms. Late one night, a team of documentary photographers were stopped on a mountain road by a masked woman. She whispers, "Don't go back up there. Not all the fires are for you." These people were not actor. The Night of Walpurgis is not a festival in their minds, but a door to some kind of power. Not everyone can see that door, but the door does exist. On the other hand, it has been argued that the modern Night of Walpurgis has become a living label for a new type of occult organization, one that uses mystery to build an identity. According to a 2017 report by Germany's Federal Criminal Bureau, records show, in the Brocken Hill region, there is a significant increase in the number of disappearance reports on the last night of April each year, and although the vast majority are recovered the following day, this is a surveillance image of a barefoot female walking alone into the woods at 3:42 a.m. with a determined back. The police record file is stamped Unspecified Incident. Walpurgis Night is still happening, not a fairy tale, not an urban legend. It may no longer be an image of a witch flying up a mountaintop on a broomstick, but under the firelight and in the mist. The question is, what is it exactly that they summon? Have you ever experienced a moment like this? When you are alone in the middle of the night, you seem to take on a life of your own in the mirror. At that moment, you are no longer you. It connects day and night, reason and dreams, the known and the unknown. When the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung proposed the concept of the collective unconscious, he specifically mentioned the imagery of the witch. He argues that witches are not specific individuals, but rather projected archetypes within us of the unknown, of freedom, of irrational forces. The Night of Walpurgis is the outward manifestation. It is not just a festival, not just a ritual, but a self-awakening and collective release of human subconsciousness at a specific point in time. From the forests of Central Europe to the dense forests of India, ayahuasca ceremonies in the Amazon of South America, priestesses' fire circles in the Yoruba of Africa, and the nightmare ceremony, the tradition of nocturnal channeling exists in almost all cultures, from the Brazilian ritual of the magic potion to the Japanese Oni no Matsuri, festival of Oni no Matsuri, occurring at the time of the change of seasons, e.g., spring equinox, the end of April, the eve of All Hallows. Mostly female, dominated or female, symbolized images, all emphasize flames. A modern neuroscience lab where researchers plug subjects into a brain mapping instrument that plays the sound of flames burning and ancient chants. The instrumentation showed a gradual shift of brain area activity to the limbic system and pineal region. The latest neuropsychological research points out that under the effect of high-frequency flame visual stimulation and repetitive chanting sound waves, the brain will enter a limbic state similar to, this state is known in the rituals as entrancing, and in science as sensory threshold drift. Human beings need the Night of Walpurgis because it allows us to enter an intermediate state. Elena Varga, a cultural anthropologist, said in an exclusive interview, "The Night of Walpurgis allows the collective consciousness to enter a unifying dream in which one allows oneself to face fears, release desires, and re-establish a sense of mastery over chaos." A set of medieval exorcism mirrors on display in a European museum with the words "In lucem per tenebras," through darkness to light, engraved on the silver frames. The magic mirror is not a prop in a fairy tale, but a real tool of consciousness in the ritual. In the hours between midnight on April 30th and the early morning of May, honest what has been described. Mirrors can both reflect appearances and summon the other self deep in the subconscious. We may not be able to prove the existence of demons, flying witches, or demonic covenants, but we can analyze. Walpurgis Night allows us to allow ourselves to enter the door, a door that opens not only to the mystical traditions of the past, but also to the most hidden needs of today's human beings. What we really fear is not the witch, but the self that looks at us in the mirror. Mist surrounds Broken Hill before sunrise. Yesterday's campfire has not yet been fully extinguished, and footprints, leftover herb bundles, and dripping red wax oil are faintly visible in the embers. The sun rises, the flames go out, and the music, the rituals, the smoke, and the whispers fade into the night. But the real question remains. In the 21st century, where information is exploding and rationality reigns supreme, who is still sustaining this millennia-old calling? Walpurgis Night is not dusted off by history. It just continues to flow, in a newer form, in a more hidden place. The new witch phenomenon is sweeping the world on social media. From Copenhagen to Los Angeles, from Tokyo to Prague, young people are reconstructing rituals, sharing spells, live streaming divinatio. They don't necessarily believe in demons, but they long to talk to forces outside of their control. Interview digital anthropologist Dr. Sophia Engel. Walpurgis is more than ritual. It is a cultural container. It can hold rebellion, freedom, feminine power, occult knowledge, and even a redefinition of identity. Academics have noted that this calling has not ended, but is being quietly digested by mainstream culture. Modern fashion brands are launching witchy collections. Hollywood movies are portraying the night of Walpurgis as a mystical and liberating orgy. And even meditation apps are introducing, but at the same time, we must also ask, to whom else does the flame belong? Belongs to the women who are burned by religion? Belong to regimes that control information? Belong to a group of digitally, or does it belong to us? The group that gazes into the mirror and is gazed at by the mirror. Walpurgis Night is not an answer, it's a crack. It's not a matter of whether you believe it or not. It's a matter of whether you are willing to go near the flame. Every year on the night of April 30th, there are always places in the world where bonfires are lit. Some people are blindfolded, some people keep their mouths shut, and others choose to walk. Maybe they're not summoning the devil, but some lost part of themselves. You may never have attended a Walpurgis Night, but have you, at some midnight hour, also felt a whisper from the distant past? A night that belonged to you, but was forgotten? If this story has made you re-examine the historical and ritualistic significance of the holiday, please remember to like, comment on your thoughts, share with someone you think might get it. Bring back more of the truths illuminated by the light of the fire. Because on this channel, we tell not myths, but buried realities.